Jim, let's get another question here. This one sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Justin in the AWA-WWA crossroads of Peoria, Illinois. Hello, gentlemen. With talks of the Milwaukee Midget, I was wondering, who are the best working midgets in wrestling history?
I thought he was going to say, with talks of the Milwaukee Midget, what about the Peoria pussy?
It feels like Lord Littlebrook was the top of workers when it came to the midgets in the glory days. Who else was seen as a hell of a hand? I will list some to help Jim and his aging mind not have to think so hard. That's what it's.
The f***?
Little Tokyo.
You're asking me the question there, pal.
Little Tokyo, Butch Cassidy, Cowboy Lang, The Karate Kid, Beautiful Bobby. It says Littlebrook's son. Little Beaver, Jamaica Kid, Tiger Jackson, Fuzzy Cupid, Sky Low Low.
What did he just Google every midget?
You left off Julius Sneezer. One of my favorite names. And Wee Willie Wilson from Florida.
What about Little Bruiser? Remember Little Bruiser?
We see him on AEW with the Dark Order. That's right.
And actually, Little Bruiser drew a sellout house in Indianapolis at the Expo Center. Little Bruiser was a little fella that looked just like Dick the Bruiser, and they broke him in and used him long enough to get people familiar with him. And it was Bruiser and Crusher and Little Bruiser versus Bobby Heenan. Oh my God, now all I remember is Little Bruiser and Heenan, but I think it was Heenan, Von Raschke, and Ray Stevens, I believe. But nevertheless, that was one of the first matches. That was 1972 in Indianapolis, one of the first matches I ever saw on TV. And of course, Heenan gets beat by Little Bruiser, and it was the ultimate humiliation of a manager. Oh, we're going to have the midget come in and beat you up. And of course, I stole that later on, but it sold a fucking thing out. Anyway, originally, going back to it, I'm not sure who the first set of little people were that wrestled or whatever, but back in I guess going back to the 50s, Sky Low Low was the name that everybody knew as the top midget wrestler. And at the time, the midgets were out of Montreal. That's why that Tony Lanza, the photographer, has so many great pictures of them. But Sky Low Low was French Canadian, and I think Little Beaver was too. Fuzzy Cupid, as a matter of fact, was the top name midget before Sky Low Low, going back probably even to the late 40s. And I knew Littlebrook. Littlebrook was a heck of a guy. And I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but sometimes the top midget name was imagine this, when you know who won the pony, was the midget that was booking the other midgets. Because by the Littlebrook era, the midgets were out of St. Joseph, Missouri. And even though Lord Littlebrook really was from England, he was a British native. He had settled in St. Joe, and that's where the midgets were booked out of at that point. I think Little Tokyo lived out there. And Cowboy Lang was a name, and he was a heck of a worker and had a nice little gimmick. I think Stacy worked with him on an independent show in California. It really slapped the shit out of him, apparently with a potato, because she didn't know what she was doing. But I think he lived in California, but he was with that group of Littlebrook and Tokyo and Cowboy Lang and et cetera during the 70s. And then Littlebrook ended up, when the midget wrestling business in general fell out of favor, he had that run in WCW managing Rip Morgan and Jack Victory, remember?
That's right, the royal family.
Yes, and he was a heck of a guy, but that's why everybody said, oh, you shouldn't call them midgets. Well, every time that I would see Littlebrook, I would say, Lord, how are you? It's, oh, I'm just booking the midgets. Well, he's one. If he didn't mind, I don't.
All right, well, that makes it official. Best working midgets. There it is.